The email came in at 11:47 p.m., long after the office lights on the 42nd floor had dimmed and long after I had convinced myself that if I worked just a little harder, stayed just a little later, I might finally become visible to the man whose name was etched in steel letters across the building. Elliot Crane, CEO, visionary, untouchable. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a reheated cup of coffee, blazer still on, laptop open, spreadsheet glowing, when my phone buzzed with his name, and my heart did that stupid hopeful thing it had no business doing. For 3 years, I'd been his executive assistant, the invisible axis around which his calendar, flights, meetings, and crises revolved. I knew his coffee order, his insomnia habits, the way he stared at the city like it owed him something. I knew he trusted me to fix things quietly, efficiently, without credit. So when I saw his name at that hour, my first thought was work. Crisis. A last-minute investor issue. I opened the message without hesitation, without suspicion, without armor. And that's when my world tilted. It wasn't an email. It wasn't a document. It was a photo. Elliot, shirtless, standing in what was unmistakably a luxury penthouse bathroom. Mirror fogged, phone angled just right, confidence carved into every line of his body, and beneath it, a single message. See what you could have had. My breath caught like I'd been punched, heat flooding my face, my fingers going numb as my brain scrambled for context. For a split second, a dangerous, humiliating thought flickered. Was this meant for me? But reality crashed in immediately, sharp and cold. No, this wasn't desire. This was a mistake. I wasn't the intended recipient. I was collateral damage. My chest tightened, humiliation crawling up my neck as the implications unraveled. There was someone else. Someone younger, bolder, someone he thought worthy of that kind of intimacy. And I, who had canceled dates, skipped vacations, defended him in rooms he'd never enter, who had quietly loved him in a way that asked for nothing, was just the wrong name tapped at the wrong time. I stared at the screen, my reflection faintly visible over his body, and something inside me cracked. I thought of every late night, every condescending smile he'd given me, every "you're indispensable" that never translated into respect. I thought of the way he'd once told me, half joking, that ambition looked good on me, like that was as close as I'd ever get to being seen. My phone buzzed again, typing bubbles, then stopped. He'd realized. He knew. The panic was almost visible through the silence. Could have ignored it. I could have pretended I never saw it, swallowed the humiliation, protected his image the way I always had. That's what the old me would have done. But the photo sat there, heavy, smug, like a dare. See what you could have had. The words echoed, mocking, and something reckless rose up in me, something tired of being small. I typed before fear could stop me, before professionalism could suffocate me, before I remembered my place. Interesting, I wrote. Did you mean to send this to your assistant? Or the woman who thinks you're loyal? My finger hovered, heart slamming, entire career flashing before my eyes. Then I hit send. The silence that followed was deafening. Minutes passed. Then my phone rang. Elliot's name again. I didn't answer. It rang again. I let it go to voicemail. My email pinged. Subject line empty. Just a single sentence inside. Come to my office first thing in the morning. I didn't sleep. Not a minute. By the time dawn broke, the humiliation had hardened into resolve. I walked into the building like I always did, heels clicking, head high, but the energy was different. People looked at me with that subtle curiosity that meant something was already circulating. His office door was closed. When I was finally called in, Elliot didn't look like the man in the photo. He looked older, tense. His jaw was set, eyes cold, voice clipped. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He said it was unfortunate, that boundaries had been blurred, and that my response was unprofessional. I reminded him quietly that professionalism went both ways. He didn't like that. He leaned back, steepled his fingers, and said the words that still ring in my ears. I think it's best we part ways. Fired. Just like that. 3 years erased. Security escorted me out like I was the problem. As I stepped into the elevator, cardboard box in my arms, phone buzzing with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. One thought burned brighter than the humiliation. He thought this was the end of my story. He had no idea it was just the beginning. And if you think this ends with me quietly disappearing, trust me, you're going to want to subscribe, because what happens next is something no one in that building saw coming. Losing my job felt like free fall at first, the kind where your stomach drops faster than your pride can catch up. And for the first week I moved through my apartment like a ghost, replaying everything over and over, wondering if I should have stayed silent, if dignity was worth rent, if courage always came with consequences. This sharp, but then the shock faded and clarity took its place, because when you've spent years watching power up close, you learn its blind spots, and Elliot Crane had one massive weakness. He believed stories were something he controlled. I had signed an NDA, yes, but NDAs don't cover evidence of misconduct, retaliation, or abuse of power, and while he had assumed I would crawl away embarrassed, he had forgotten something crucial. I had managed his life. I knew where the skeletons were buried, not the petty gossip kind, but the kind that lived in servers, expense reports, deleted emails, and accidental calendar overlaps. I didn't rush. Revenge is sloppy when it's emotional, so I treated it like a project, quietly consulting an employment attorney who didn't blink when I showed her the time-stamped photo, the termination notice less than 12 hours later, the pattern of behavior that suddenly looked very clear when laid out chronologically. She smiled once and said, "He made this easy." The lawsuit didn't drop immediately. Instead, a polite letter went out, one that used words like retaliation, hostile work environment, and wrongful termination, and within 48 hours, Elliot's legal team responded with a settlement offer that was meant to scare me into silence. Didn't. I countered. While they negotiated, something unexpected happened. People started reaching out. Former employees, women, assistants, interns, all with eerily similar stories, all with screenshots they'd never thought would matter, all relieved someone had finally cracked the facade. Patterns emerged, ugly and undeniable. And suddenly this wasn't just about me anymore. The story grew legs when an anonymous tip hit a business ethics journalist's inbox. Then another. And then the article dropped on a quiet Tuesday morning with a headline that didn't mention my name but didn't need to. A powerful CEO, a culture of intimidation, and a trail of women pushed out for unprofessionalism after rejecting or exposing him. By noon, Elliot's photo, the confident mirror selfie kind, not the accidental one, was everywhere, paired with words like investigation and board review. I watched it unfold from my couch, phone in hand, heart pounding, not with glee but with a strange calm, because the truth has weight, and once it starts tipping, it doesn't stop easily. By Friday, the board placed him on indefinite leave. By Monday, he resigned. No dramatic press conference, no apology, just a carefully worded statement about personal matters and stepping aside. And the company I'd given years of my life to suddenly wanted to talk. HR called. Legal called. People who'd walked past me for years without seeing me suddenly remembered my name. I didn't go back. I didn't need to. The settlement closed quietly, numbers with commas that changed my life, but more importantly, my story, our stories, didn't disappear. I started speaking first privately, then publicly about power, silence, and the cost of pretending things are fine when they aren't. The irony wasn't lost on me that the message meant to belittle me, see what you could have had, ended up costing him everything he thought he owned. A year later, I passed that building again, his name already replaced, the steel letters gone, and I felt lighter than I ever had inside those walls. Sometimes people ask if I regret hitting send, if I wish I'd handled it differently. I don't, because that one reply didn't just get me fired, it set me free. And if this story made you feel something, if it reminded you that your voice matters even when it shakes, don't forget to subscribe, because there are more stories like this, stories they never expect to be told, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.